All right, so we're here. This is episode 1, the pilot of the Ship Toasters. The idea of this podcast is we're going to take a hilarious take on the top 2, 3, 4 news stories of the week in tech, business, or startups, and then see if good things happen. So, yeah, is that good with you guys? Chris, you all right with that?
I'm okay with that. I don't know if it'll be hilarious. I guess we'll find out in 30 minutes.
Look, at least I think the jokes will be funny. And Alex, okay, let's talk about the fact you have a Peloton in the back of your video.
I need to show everyone that I'm fit.
What's going on? You need to be like everybody else with their Peloton and hang some clothes on it. Every time I go to my friend's house with their Peloton's like an extension of their closet.
So I had a jacket on it, and right before our call, I moved it onto this big ass desk. So you can't see it anymore. I look really clean and fit. Look like I just got off a Peloton bike.
You should be drinking like out of a Peloton water bottle the whole episode. We need to expect that from you.
Are they the first sponsor of the podcast?
Yeah,
this
first sponsor,
is
Peloton.
brought to you by Peloton. We can't sell any bikes, so we've hired the Ship Toasters to promote us.
Can they? Let's see if they can afford us. So the idea, maybe Chris, do you want to give us the genesis of the podcast for people listening? Like, why does anybody care?
Well, I think they care because we all tweet things about stories that are happening on a daily basis, and we don't have faces for television, so we have to do a podcast instead. So that is really the genesis, I think. I don't know. I was invited by you guys, so I don't know if there's more to the story, but that was sort of my take on it.
Well, me and Alex were DMing, and I said, "Who's the funniest guy you know?" And we called that guy, and he wasn't available. And then we called two other people, and they said no. And you were
Trunk couldn't make it. Jack Rains couldn't make it.
Trunk couldn't make
17th on the list. Yep. I'm okay with
All right,
that.
So I think the value prop is if you listen to this podcast and you don't want to read the news during the week, and you want to know the top 3 or 4 big things that happen in tech, startup, or business, and you want it to be fun, we'll spend a half hour. We'll go through each of the stories. Might give you some insights. None of us are, what I think is cool is none of us are like Silicon Valley or New York, like business insiders. Like none of us write for the Wall Street Journal. Like we're just random dudes on the internet, which I think is great. Unlike some other podcasts, which are all like total insiders. I'm like, these guys are so cool. We're not cool.
Yeah, we're like a less smart, more funny version of the podcast that you're referring to.
One of the ideas for this podcast was called the Somewhat In Podcast.
The Partially In Podcast.
Maybe we'll change it. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's get started. So the big story of the week, and maybe Alex walk us through this. The big story of the week is Amazon laid off 17,000 people from corporate, and we're officially have laid off more people than ever in tech, if I understand it right.
Yeah, we're full on in a recession. Everyone's laying off people. This is the white collar recession we were predicting would happen in early 2020, and we just delayed it 2 years. I think is what happened. Just everyone said money printer go burr, stocks go up, let's hire everyone, and then now we're all paying the consequence for it.
It's nuts. That's a lot of people. So what percentage of Amazon's workforce is that they've laid off? 17,000 people?
No, I think it's big. How many people do they have working in corporate versus delivery drivers and operations and facilities? It's probably 10 to 20% of their corporate headcount.
Is it corporate or is it Amazon retail? I guess I've seen different things.
I pulled up the article from the Wall Street Journal. They laid off 5% of their corporate workforce and 1.2% of the overall 1.5 million employees they have as of September. So by and large, it's a big number by itself, but still, it's only 1/20th of their corporate workforce.
What do the other 95% do?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what they all do. They have according to every Jeff Bezos videos I've watched, they have a obsession with customers. So maybe they're all obsessing with their customers.
They're all building the day one wooden desks and bringing 2 pizzas into meetings and just shuffling, things back and forth, I think.
Do you guys know the Amazon Whole Foods acquisition story and what happened with the 2 engineering teams there?
No.
Okay, so I don't know if everyone knows this. Whole Foods is based here in Austin. They've been around for a long time before Amazon acquired them. And you don't expect a grocery chain to have a good software engineering team. It's just not Whole Foods is not recruiting SpaceX, Tesla, Amazon engineers. And so when Amazon bought Whole Foods, like 99% of the engineers did not pass the coding interviews for the levels that they were at Whole Foods that corresponded to the levels at Amazon. And so Amazon had to recreate an entire org structure to match, like basically a level 3 at Whole Foods was like a level 1 in Amazon. And then after they finished the integration of the two, like basically finished the Whole Foods integration into Amazon, like most of that team was let go.
Jeez.
So I could be like
Anyway,
a 10x. I'm like a 10x Whole Foods engineer is like my new title on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Like I'm a terrible engineer, but like at Whole Foods, I just absolutely crush. Like I'm slinging like sub sandwiches and like kale smoothies left and right on their e-commerce site. That's pretty good. Easy.
100%. And there's probably more nuance to that story that I don't know, but that's the gist of what I heard from people who were at Whole Foods at the time of the acquisition.
So there's this kind of idea of layoffs, right? There's three types of layoffs. There's like this layoff with Amazon where they're laying off 5% of their corporate workforce. And to me, when I see that a lot of times, I'm like, okay, well, like what these guys are doing is they've maybe hired too much too fast. And like, this is our excuse to like get some people out the door who are lower performers. Then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is you have the 20 to 25% riff, which is, hey, like demand is actually super slow, cash is tight, we got to make a big change. And then you have the third kind of the layoff, which is the 12 to 15% layoff, which actually does nothing except set you up to do another 10% layoff 6 months later to get to the 25%. So is that what's going on with this? Like, what do we suspect is happening with Amazon? Which of these three is it? Is it the baby layoff where we're just trying to rank and yank some people out of the company?
That's what I would guess. I mean, I think if they were actually struggling, they would have laid off a much larger percentage of people at the company. I don't know what their financials look like, and I doubt it's slow to the point where they need to do a 30% riff. It's probably just weeding out the people who all joined during the pandemic and are not performing, and they need to just cut some of the fat.
The number of companies doing like subsequent 12 to 15% layoffs, like over and over, has been pretty astounding too, right? Like you've seen this a lot, I think, in the real estate space. You've seen this with Redfin and Compass and Better. It's like, we expect things to keep getting better. They're not getting better. So like that's the most painful thing to watch, right? Are these companies where I think like Peloton too, they're on their like third or fourth layoff over a 12-month period. And who knows if Amazon's in that boat, but feels like they easily could be, right? If enough things slow down with their consumer business. But yeah, I agree. This feels like sort of a baby layoff to sort of potentially weed out some underperformers.
So the problem with Peloton's financials is Alex only has the cycle and hasn't bought the rower and the treadmill. Alex, are you going to help him out and add one to your repertoire back there? I mean, at least for your background, we need that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I actually bought this one on Facebook Marketplace. So turns out there's a lot of people during the pandemic.
Did you buy a new one?
No, it was great. It still had the plastic on it. I bought it from some like suburban couple 40 minutes away. The guy was like, yeah, I bought it for my wife. She uses it 3 times in the last 2 years. I was like, great. Well, I will use it more than 3 times.
For those of you listening, one of the things we asked during this podcast was, Alex, we need you to get like a professional mic. And I could hear all the way from Austin to San Antonio, the creaking of Alex's wallet opening up to actually be used to buy something. It was pretty impressive.
Guess what I paid? That's the game we need to play. Is like, what do you think
How
I
much
paid
did you
for
pay
that
for
Peloton? $600.
What do they usually go for? 1,200? 1,500?
Yeah, 12 to 1,400.
So you got it half off, ridden 3 times, plastic still on it. Pretty good.
Yeah, can't beat it. Their subscription is expensive though. Like if you have the bike, it's $49 a month to actually use the Peloton app on the bike. If you don't have their bike and you just like use a standalone TV or their app, it's $12 a month. I don't understand that strategy.
I don't know. Or you could just go outside.
Yeah, just ride a bike outside
and run around the street.
Get hit by a car.
Oh, give me a break. I haven't been hit by a car yet. I'm fine. All right. Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing about these layoffs is like you hear about them over and over again from tech, but like you still go like into Main Street, like and all my buddies and stuff, they're still like, we can't hire. There's no candidates. Like it's so limited at this point. And I'm just curious to see if the contagion like continues, right? Does it go off into these other industries? But like everybody's still hiring like crazy in normal markets. And you saw it in the jobs report today. So it's totally confusing.
Yeah. I think it's pretty limited to tech. And it feels like it, I mean, maybe things trickle, right? Like there's probably a case for in certain cities, you have all these tech workers making tons of money, and those people are supporting the economy in so many different ways. So it doesn't take much for like, if 6,000 like Coinbase engineers all stop competing for like condos in San Francisco, then you have like a real estate problem, you have a new construction problem, you have a like all the services around that problem. But that could take many years for that to like actually shake out. But yeah, every other industry feels pretty healthy outside of tech.
Well, Chris, you're really close to the metal on recruiting. Like, have you seen recruiting issues still, even amidst all of these layoffs?
With like small companies, a lot of them feel like they're going harder than ever. Like, under 200 employees, I think a lot of companies they're sitting on cash that they've managed well. Like companies are still raising rounds. I think a lot of like seed and Series A stuff has been actually like fairly unaffected valuation wise. I mean, you still have a number of companies raising 3 to 5 million in seed rounds and going out there and hiring people. So I think for small companies and small businesses, there's still huge competition for, engineers and designers and product managers, to the extent that a lot of these companies continue to look outside of the US for talent. But big companies, that's where this is going to be interesting to shake out, is that in general at a startup, you have these engineers that are making maybe between $100,000 and $200,000 a year, because that's what the startup can afford. The people getting laid off from Peloton and Netflix, like their all-in comp might be $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. So it's not as simple as like, oh, the Peloton guy just goes and gets a job at, some startup you've never heard of. Like that would decrease her comp by 3x, 4x in a lot of cases. So the question is going to be, I think a lot of these very high-paid, like FANG type tech workers are in positions to not need cash right away, but as they're unemployed for 2, 4, 6 months, like what happens, and who are the companies that can actually afford to bring that engineer back in at $600K?
Yeah, they can't afford their condo in SF anymore if they join the startup.
They might have to buy a new Peloton, not a used one from some guy on Facebook Marketplace. All right, you guys want to talk about Bed Bath and Beyond? This is the saddest story we're going to talk about today. Where am I going to get a salad shooter at 9 p.m. on a Sunday?
That's how shitty this story is. It's like we're just talking about like people losing their livelihoods, and it's like, now on to the saddest story of the day. Bed Bath and Beyond's bankruptcy.
Unfortunately, we decided to start this podcast in a week when there's like no Elon craziness. Nope. There's like there's no Sam Bankman-Fried. Like, oh man, like it's a quiet news week. Maybe it'll get better next week, but sorry. So anyway, my salad shooter joke. My salad shooter joke. That's funny, right? Give it to me.
What is a salad shooter?
Do you guys don't know what a salad shooter is?
Is that like the thing where you put your lettuce in and you press the top and it spins it all around?
It's the salad spinner. But yeah, you press it down, you get your lettuce wet because you want to get the dirt off your lettuce and the bacteria because it's fertilized with manure sometimes. And you want to wash it. And then your lettuce is unfortunately very wet. So you put it in this salad spinner, which is a plastic deal, and you press it down and it spins.
Hold on, I'm just taking notes that I'm supposed to wash my lettuce because it's covered in cow manure. I didn't know that.
You have children, you don't own a salad spinner, you really should consider your parenting. That's what I think.
My kid doesn't eat salad.
Yeah, we both have kids that are not eating salad yet. That's the problem.
No. Oh, his favorite food right now is bananas. All he wants is a banana. We can't go to this. He's like, we go to the store, he's sitting in his car, he's like, Nana, Nana. And you're like, bro, that's a toy. Does not know what it is yet.
Hey, you guys want to hear a secret? They refuse to eat salad when they're teenagers too. Does it work? I mean, like, dude, do you
are
want
salads objectively even good? They're not that good.
I think they're pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, so at one point, my teenager, he was 12 or 13, and he was getting at least 100% of his calories for the day from peanut butter. That was it. He would just sit there and eat peanut butter out of a jar for every meal. I was like, how does your digestive system function? He was like, I'm fine. Gross. It's perfectly normal. So there you go. All right. So Bed Bath and Beyond. So it looks like they're about to go bankrupt.
Yeah. Bed Bath and Bankruptcy. So it's not a good time.
How have they not?
Yeah, that's
how have they how is this a story in 2023? That's shocking. Like I feel like I read this every couple of years. Like they might go bankrupt. They might go back. How has it not happened? Like who is going to Bed Bath and Beyond? Who's their customer?
I mean, they were a meme stock the last 2 years. Did that do anything? Oh, your wife is single-handedly keeping Bed Bath and Beyond afloat for these last
I'm
2
Gen
years.
X. I'm Gen X. Like there's still things that we haven't woken up and smelled the 2000 yet, which is sometimes we walk into a store and we're like, "Dear sir, may we please have a salad shooter?"
How many things do you own that are as seen on TV?
Very little. I'm not a boomer. Give me a break.
Is like Bed and Bath and Beyond, is it like the coupon economy that keeps them in business? Like that's what I think of, is like they're always running a sale. There's always people that want a deal, like Alex and his Peloton bike. And so, if you can go get like a pepper shaker or whatever for like 50% off, even if you don't need one, you like get in the car, spend $7 of gas to like go there, fight parking in the parking lot, and then go get your pepper shaker or whatever. Is that what happens?
There's definitely that. I mean, that's what we used to do. Like you go there and you're like, "Hey, I need a new blender." And that's where you go get a new blender. But I think it's the latest category where like Amazon has just gone in and destroyed all of that, like bedding, blenders, vacuums. Like who wants to go to a store to buy that stuff? Like you go on Amazon, you read the reviews, you click a button.
I don't agree. I mean, look at Best Buy. Best Buy did a full turnaround. I don't know if you guys remember, like Best Buy was supposed to be dead. Amazon was putting them out of business. Like no one wanted to go in store to buy electronics, and like they're doing really well, and they've recovered. And I think Bed Bath is a case of like they just stocked their store with shitty products and no one wanted to buy them anymore. Like why we've gone there. I mean, I'm not a boomer or Gen X, but like we have gone there to look for sheets and towels and rugs, and their stuff is just not good. Like I wouldn't buy it to put it in the house when I've got 300 options on Amazon that come same day.
Wait, did you just agree with me? But no.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the deal. I would just
No.
The only thing I would tell you about what you're saying is buying an $1,800 laptop for most people is still, which Best Buy sells a lot of, or a TV. Like that's different than I'm spending $14 on like a new pair of sheets at Bed Bath and Beyond. Right. Which is why, much more comfortable doing it. But I hear you, like nothing's going to save you from being a sucky store. I mean, what's interesting about the Bed Bath & Beyond near me, which, rest in peace, closed down. Guess what it's becoming? You guys?
Is it one of the responses that was in reply to my tweet?
I don't know what it is. It's a great business, but it's these folks that go and lease big spaces. This one's called Salons by JC. It's basically we work for hairstylists and hair cutters. So they go in, they lease the space, and then they sublease the individual seats to hair cutters. So it's basically like what you're seeing in so much of retail happening now, which is like old economy, like selling of like cheap Chinese products is getting replaced by experiential stuff like over and over again. And it was like just a microcosm of that happening, like right in my neighborhood in Nowheresville, Texas.
Yeah, it's like a ghost kitchen for the salon industry.
Man, it's a place to be. Like if you want to pick an industry to be in, like find one that can't be offshored to someplace not in America. Like you want to be in HVAC, you want to be cutting hair, you want to be providing experiences, you want to be government regulated thing that they can't send to another country. Right, Mirko? Mirko, our producer's in Argentina, so he's a hero. Anyway, okay. Do we think anything more about Bed Bath & Beyond?
Oh, man. I mean, I can go on to my rant of like how they should have changed in the last couple of years to adopt. But I mean, I've given this way too much thought, but I think Bed Bath & Beyond should have completely converted to an Instagrammable D2C store and put in all of the high-end parachute linen and like Brooklinen linen. Am I using the right words? Anyway, like Brooklinen sheets and bedding and like Casper beds and all this stuff. And it is like a place where you go. It's got like dark, moody vibes with like green plants in the background so that your influencers can take photos, and like actually turned it into a influencer D2C shop. I actually think it couldn't have gone worse than they've currently gone. So maybe that's the upside, but they just didn't do anything. And in the last 2 years, they've stayed the same course, and they haven't changed their retail footprint at all. And no one's really done a good job of taking that online offline experience. And perhaps they could have been the one to do that, and maybe drop the Beyond, just like Bed Bath. It's cleaner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the genius of what Best Buy did. Like, and you look at a lot of these like retailers now, like the brands are subsidizing a ton of their stuff. Like if you go to the grocery stores and all this delivery services they're rolling out, like that's all getting funded by the brands, right? Like they're hosing Procter and Gamble and Dr. Pepper, Snapple, and all these people and saying, hey, do you want us to like promote you in delivery? Congratulations, pay up. Like we'll put you on the first page of our app. And I think that's what's genius about Best Buy is they had an opportunity to go to Microsoft and say, hey, do you want to close all your stores? Great. Okay, pay us and we'll create a store within a store for you. And I think it's genius if Bed Bath & Beyond could have done that. So you're saying they would have had like a Warby Parker in there? I get $250 glasses?
Yeah, I mean, Warby Parker, Brooklinen, Casper, Parachute. I mean, I'm sure there's other brands that I'm not even thinking of right now, but like, yeah, little micros. I mean, it's kind of like a mall. Bed Bath & Beyond is the size of a mall. Like most of their stores are way too big for what they sell. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of when you go into a Nordstrom or a Saks and they have their little Sephora booth in there, or they've got their like, purse section that's a specific brand. Bed Bath & Beyond probably could have done that for a lot of online brands that don't have a physical presence.
When you originally pitched this, it sounded absurd, but I'm actually on board with that. I don't hate that idea. Yeah. What you got?
Here's what we do, Chris. We go take Alex's Peloton. We put it on Facebook Marketplace. We raise enough money to go launch a hostile takeover out of bankruptcy of Bed Bath & Beyond, and we install Alex as the CEO.
I'm in.
This is great.
Because we also got rid of the Peloton, everybody will believe he's the CEO now and take him very seriously and go from there.
I feel like he needs to wear like tweed jackets to like fit in with the current board. But outside of that, he can just like sneak right in there and start saying Bed Bath and cut the Beyond, and then everybody will believe him and story's over. The market cap's only like 100 million. Like we only have to sell like a few thousand Peloton bikes to buy this thing. It's not out of reach.
I'll do this and I'll be the chairman of the board, but I just demand one thing, which is every time Alex talks to me, he goes, okay, boomer. Just before any sentence.
That's how every one of our meetings starts.
Okay,
wow,
boomer.
They really are. They're only $120 million company. Like we could crowdfund a hostile takeover of Bed Bath.
Yeah, I mean, you get some debt, you get the right thing. You probably need to put 60 or 80 million in equity in there. I mean, let's go.
So, unrelated note, I found out recently that there's a large percentage of GoFundMes that actually just fund terrorist organizations. So when you see, when you see like child in some country needs help, it is actually like half the time money laundering for terrorist organizations. So, speaking of crowdfunding campaigns, that thought came to my mind with a fun fact that I learned recently.
All the reviews of this are going to be like 3 somewhat funny guys trying to make depressing stories hilarious and failing. That's like going to be all the reviews 1 star.
I'm not going to give away my source of who told me that though, but I believe the person who told me because they work on that piece of the business.
It's kind of like that idea that you talk to people about how drugs get moved around the United States, and it's like UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service. Like those guys handle tons of drugs. They also steal a ton of the drugs. So there you go.
I went into the wrong career.
Could have been. All right,
what are you talking about? You're the new CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond. That's a great
you'll do great.
Yeah.
They're going to listen to this, and some executives are going to be like, I don't know who this team is, but they're in. It can't go worse.
Hand over the keys. We're taking over.
All right, Chris, what story you want to do next? Shopify saying no to meetings? That would be my vote, but we can go wherever you want.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do Shopify. So they said just no more meetings. You can't have meetings with over 2 people anymore?
Yes.
What was the
takeaway? They also
takeaway?
have installed a bot.
Yeah, no more threesomes.
And they've installed a bot in your Slack, in their calendaring system, that if you schedule a meeting that breaks their rules, it sends you a notification and tells you you're on double secret probation.
That's not real.
No, it's totally in there. I read it in the story. It's under the Bloomberg story. It's there in the middle of the line.
So say that again. If they catch you scheduling meetings that are more than just like 2 people, they put you on probation, on meeting probation?
Shopify said, I'm reading from the Bloomberg article, and you can trust the media. That's what we all
That's why we're here.
Here it is. Shopify said that a bot will serve as the new policies enforcer, reminding meeting organizers of the new rules starting yesterday, January the 5th. So they have installed Big Brother to tell you if you're breaking the meeting rules.
It sounds like a great culture, if you ask me.
It's bizarre to me because if you're going to do this, like, it seems like a fantastic idea, terribly implemented. Like, what you need to do as the CEO is just go around and just tell everybody this is our new culture and push it and live it. And instead of doing that, it's like, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a new chatbot into Slack, and you're going to feel like just totally annoyed when you think there's something really important, but the chatbot is going to tell you you're on double secret probation. Like,
we could do
an
entire series of things that's like shit CEOs do when their stock is down 96% from all-time highs. And like, this is one of those things, right? It's like you sit around in a room and you like start by blaming the Fed, and then you blame like unproductive workers, and then you go, oh, should we get everybody back in the office? And then when that doesn't work, it's like meetings are the problem. It's like I think every company will go down this rabbit hole. They're maybe just like the first to do so publicly. But it's like, I do agree, like meeting creep is a huge problem at the majority of companies, but the way that they're doing this is pretty insane.
100%.
In one of my group chats, someone said that the only reason Toby is doing this is so that he has more time to play StarCraft. So maybe it's just that's the incentive all along, is more time to play video games at home in between your work.
It's so fascinating how they're doing this. I mean, that's just where I'm stuck. It's like I read the article here, and it's like Toby, who's the CEO and created the company, founded it with his folks. Like, the best thing founders can do is subtraction. It's much easier to add things than to remove things. If you say yes to a thing, you actually say no to every other thing that you could have done with that period of time. Like, that's so good. But don't create like a Slack bot and a calendar bot. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, it's like an engineer trying to throw a computer at a people problem, and it's like, no, go fix the culture. Like, Jeff Bezos like has the 2 pizza rule, right? You can only have enough people in a meeting to have 2 pizzas. Like, he doesn't have like a pizza bot. Like, there's no pizza bot. Like, oh no, like, we're gonna screen all your calls to Domino's and like prevent you from ordering like more than one pizza. Like, it's just crazy. Like, yeah.
That would be funny though.
That would be an amazing. We should start that rumor
like,
on Twitter. I'm going to tweet that right now.
That would be really great. It's like, oh, for this meeting, we saw you ordered more than 2 pizzas. Please downsize your meeting, or this will not be reimbursed on your next expense report.
Yeah, but it's hard. Like, if you want to change a culture to where like you let people get up and walk out of meetings that are a waste of time, or say no to meetings. Like, even with companies I've founded or where I'm on the board or like I own, like there's times where I'll go to meetings because I don't want to be a jerk. But like, to have a culture and transition it, like, it's not easy what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And like remote, I mean, I tweeted about this and I got a ton of backlash, as I think you both saw, but like remote work, it has its, I think someone said it's tolerable, but it sucks to do creative work. And it really does, because you're like staring at people through screens all day long. You're not in person, not feeding off their energy. And this to me just makes that even harder. Like, now you're creating either solo or maybe one-on-one, like you find maybe the designer and engineer get together because that's allowed or approved or whatever. Yeah. But, it seems like they're creating a very large team of introverts, and like perhaps that's the company culture that they're going for, and to each their own. But it just doesn't sound like I don't love being on meetings all day. I like being on good meetings, but there's a difference between good meetings and no meetings.
Yeah. The other thing that's fascinating about this article, by the way, is it says here are the companies that have taken a lead in curtailing meetings. Tech firm Twilio, Meta, the former Facebook, and a company you'll never guess, Clorox. Clorox is the other one taking the lead in fewer
That's
meetings.
The third tech company.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well done, guys. See how that works for you.
Is Clorox a tech company? Do they have an app?
Meta's reduction in meetings, I don't know, will impact, their actual problems of spending $10 billion a year on VR goggles. But, it's a step in the right direction, I guess. I think like all these companies have fundamental other problems, and they're just like, they bring in a consultant, and the consultant bills like $200,000 for like a week, and they look at the culture and they go, okay, the problem is meetings. And Shopify is just doing this in like a very hands-off, awkward tech way, right? With the Slack bot. And it's like shitty for the people that work there. And I agree, like the culturally that should be instilled in like so many better ways.
when you have a programmer or CEO like that, it can be often awesome because they understand technology. Unfortunately to them, they often just like want to fix people problems by just like, oh, you know what we need to do? Spin up another AWS instance. Like put another server on it. That'll totally fix it. And like, it doesn't. Like you have to fix people problems with people solutions. And it's great ideas, but sometimes you're just like, I'm not so sure this is going to work.
And I mean, I respect him as a founder, but we also have to keep in mind that he had a NFT profile picture on Twitter for like a very long time. So he obviously is not afraid of doing embarrassing, like awkward stuff publicly. So this is just part of that whole theme.
Not dunking on him, just dunking on what this article says about the way it's going. I know we wanted this to be a fun, like positive podcast, and maybe I was the one like, no, I'm not going to be negative at all. And I've been negative on this idea for like 10 minutes.
It's hard.
Man. Well, I am curious to hear how it goes in a few weeks. Like maybe they'll come back and be like, guys, we fucked up. Like nothing got done we worked on all the wrong stuff the last month. But I actually think like Toby, for what it's worth, probably like his personality, if they fucked up and in 3 weeks he's like, yeah, we like didn't do the right thing, he would probably share that publicly. I don't think he would sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
To his credit.
Kudos to them for trying something, man. I mean, so many leaders just don't try anything out of the box. And it's the best thing about having founder CEOs like that, right? They feel like they have agency to go in there and try stuff. And Zuckerberg's, moves, whether right or wrong, like, man, that's great. Like that's why founder CEOs work so well. And more power to him. I hope it works out. I just don't get it based on this article.
It does beg the question, though, I guess separately, like, how do you know if something like that works? Like, I would be curious, like, what the definition is, right? Like, do you look at like employee feedback? Is it a revenue thing? Like, obviously, there was a series of like probably metrics and meetings and consultants and decisions potentially that like led to this. But I wonder. Like, it feels like giving it 3 weeks would be hard because you wouldn't have enough time to like really see sort of the full ripple effects, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a level of quantification that you can do for sure, right? I'm sure Shopify is doing sampling of their employees to understand engagement and all that kind of stuff, whether it's Q12 or some other system. Yeah, there's also, when you're a CEO or you're on the board of one of these companies, you just start to get a feel if they're running well or not. And it's like all the little things together. When I sit on a board, I'm like, oh, like this is a company really running well because it's like all the little things beyond just the numbers that you start to see. So yeah, I would be surprised if they're not able to get a feel for how it's doing better in terms of morale, both quantitatively and qualitatively after 6 months. But what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing you have to do as a company that's going less live meetings is you have to get really good at writing as your main form of communication. Like if they aren't good at writing documents, writing messages, keeping people updated, like you now create this huge burden to share things asynchronously. And that's challenging. Like most people I've worked with are not good writers and they're not good communicators. And so, I don't doubt that Shopify has probably hired a bunch of people who are good at written communication, but to be really good at it and replace that, sort of that live context that you get from actually talking to someone or being in a group with a room of people, that's challenging.
Cool. All right. Any other stories we need to hit? We're 34 minutes in, which is about the time it takes somebody to commute if they're using Alex's way of living.
So if they're still listening, we should definitely let them know about the Greta dunk. I think that was like my favorite thing of that week. If we want to go into that story.
Tell us about that.
I'm not going to refer to the other guy by his real name to give him any more publicity than he already has. So I'll just go by like Tandrew 8 or something like that. Anyway, there's this guy. He's a massive douche on the internet. He's gone viral in the last, couple of years by turning his own personal brand into a multi-level marketing scheme. Is basically like the gist of what he did. So like any other thinkfluencer on the internet, he launched a course. His course was how to get rich and become popular and all this stuff, and how to make money. And so, but the way to make money was by referring his course to other people. And then when other people signed up for his course, the people in his course made money. And you can imagine how this creates a big pyramid scheme for his own brand on the internet. So anyway, he blew up on the internet. He's very popular amongst, I think like more of a teenage male clientele is my guess. But, he tweeted some dumb thing about like he has 33 cars and he doesn't care about the environmental impact. And he tweeted it at Greta Thunberg, who, if you remember her from like 10 years ago or whenever she was like 13, was sort of the face of the environmentalist movement. And she quote tweeted him saying like, I would love to learn more. Please email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com or something like, I forget the exact tweet, but it was like some incredible tweet. Dick jokes are funny generally. This one to me was extra funny because I think everyone has like Greta in their mind as this like middle schooler still from a decade ago. And so to see like Greta dunk on this guy who everyone knows is a douche with a dick joke, it just was like the perfect combinations of things that led to being one of the most viral tweets on Twitter of all time. So
3.9 million likes, 300 million views. Well, I mean, I think it also reflects kind of what we all suspect from these people who are like over the top masculinity, like on social media, is that they're definitely compensating for something, right? Like mommy was too overbearing. There's some insecurities going on. Like there's, that was the best thing about the joke, was just like her ability to take the thing we're all thinking, which is like, oh, hey, I know why you have a big truck. And like put it into a tweet. It's like, and then making it even more over the top because she's a climate activist who is, I believe, autistic. Is that right? Do I have that right in terms of like, are you guys Googling this? You both look at your keyboards.
I want to know the exact tweet so I can. Yeah,
well, she's only,
what I remember.
She's only 20, right? I think Alex said before she's like 19 or 20, which in my mind, she's been like the middle school face of climate change for like 36 years. So I was shocked that somehow she's only like 19 or 20, but it's pretty wild.
I don't know. I thought she was still 12.
Her bio says she is an autistic climate justice activist. So she self-identifies as an autistic young lady.
Yeah. And in my head, she was still 12 years old. Like, I don't know. The thought of her ever growing up, like, never crossed my mind. And so then when you see a tweet from her, you're like, whoa, this is quite a fascinating Twitter exchange that you're looking at right now. And the exact tweet was, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com. It's perfect. Like there's no better professional dick joke insult that you can make ever.
It's the Mona Lisa of tweets. That's what it comes down to. Like that's that good.
Mona Lisa of dick jokes for sure.
Super good. All right.
This is where we do our ad read for Andrew Tate's 10x Top G Masterclass. Awkward that he's the sponsor, but now we have to do the ad, so we're in kind of a tricky spot. But we can punt it to next week.
That is one of the ideas Alex has put out for the podcast, which I think is genius, is letting failed, infamous startups sponsor the podcast. So this week's episode is brought to you by Theranos. Are you interested in getting control of your health and having more insight into what's going on? CEO Elizabeth Holmes and her friends have brought you the newest in blood testing. So anyway, we'll see if that sticks. We need to start doing those next time. So when we close, Chris, I just got one more question. Did we let you talk enough? Seemed like Alex and I did all the talking.
Yeah, it was good. I felt like I spoke appropriately long. I think that there's like these like programs that you can do to like see who's talking the most, but it's fine. I'll take like 70% control on episode 2. We'll go from there.
Yeah, well, we can rotate who hosts as well. I think that I just de facto started hosting because we clicked record and I started talking. But next time we can let one of you guys do it and we'll rotate it around.
Great.
I think it'll make it great.
You're our Jason Calcanis.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, J Cal.
Okay, first and last podcast for me.
Is Alex Chamath? He's like working out of a gym right now, and I'll be.
You need to stretch your legs, Alex.
Yeah,
did you skip leg day? Did you skip leg year?
I did.
On that note, we'll click stop. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for listening. Hope you made it this far. We'll see you next week.